Hi everyone, welcome to the February 2023 edition of Farsight's Human News, the remote viewing news forecast show that tells you what is going to happen, not what did happen. I'm Aziz Brown from Farsight. We are adding a new segment to our Human News show, a segment where we give you a peek at other things that we are doing here at Farsight. In this instance, we have a new monthly podcast at Farsight. You can find it on farsightprime.com. This month we focus on dreams. Here is a brief clip of the podcast.
So the second dream is, there are actually two dreams of attempts to involve me in some type of, believe it or not, some type of sexual entrapment by members of certain groups. Forget the sex part, but continue thinking about the basic essence of it. Someone coming to you in a friendly way, making it seem like the interaction is going to be one way for any type of subject. Doesn't have to have anything to do with sex. And then it actually is a trap to cause something else to happen.
The stories that I remember you telling me of, just because Farsight's an older company than I am, but the stories that I remember you telling me about all sorts of stuff where these events have happened in the past before my time, it's intense. Those stories were rather intense. I'm quite happy that I haven't been witness to any sort of attacks at that level, like it used to be. But
actually, you know. Yeah. Farsight is not older than you, but it's older than your mature, being aware of things level. Yeah. Like when Farsight started, you were a little baby.
Yeah, exactly.
You're a little baby. You're a little baby.
The entire monthly Farsight podcast is available now on farsightprime.com. It is filled with insight. Look for it each month. Also, we have another new monthly project that we are doing both on YouTube and farsightprime.com. It is called Farsight's Motorcycle Diaries. This is a chance for us to talk about some subjects in a stream of consciousness manner, unscripted and unpredictable. Here is a short clip from our first episode. Again, look for the Motorcycle Diaries to come out each month.
Sort of a general rule of helping people. Perhaps people who are helped are upset, like deep inside, that they couldn't do it by themselves. And maybe they're upset that I have the resources to help them when they don't. Gosh, I've been burned so many times. How many times have people listening to this, right, to this motorcycle rant? How many people have been burned by their lovers? And lovers get close. They profess to love one another, to trust one another, and they seem so sincere when they ask for help. And then they end up burning up the relationship when an opportunity arises to be free and independent. It happens all the time. My friends tell me not to help others, especially lovers. But even when I know the probabilities are high that a person will just take me to the cleaners, sometimes I just don't want to be the person who says no when their need is real. So I have to help people because I want to help them, not because they will reciprocate in any way. So, like, that must be the way the ETs are. Like, how do they help us? But, you know, it's not like they're guaranteed that the humans are going to be grateful. Normally, I get burned badly. Oh, I can't tell you how many times I've been burned badly. And I don't understand why people would want to live like that. Why would you want to accept help from somebody and then stab them in the back later? But I often don't want to be the person who tells them to bug off and to leave me alone. So if I see there's a real need and that they would benefit in a real way if I help them, sometimes I will do it, even though I know that they will resent me at the end and even hurt me. But it's just not me to diss them. Anyway, so many people ask about why the free will ETs why don't they just help us and let it be? Why the cloaking? Why the secrecy? Why not just do a huge flyover worldwide? Why not force the issue? Well, it would be disruptive. Number one, oh gosh, what's that over there? I don't know why everybody doesn't just ride motorcycles. Anyway, second, the chaos would disrupt the centers of power on this planet. And those centers of power would fight back. Third, the masses would simply be frightened and think that the good free will ETs are the bad guys. I mean, it would just be paranoia all over the place. And so the masses wouldn't understand that they're being helped. They don't even understand they're in prison. And then the masses would simply be angry at the free will ETs. And as soon as they saw their ships, they'd blame those ETs for bad things. And then the free will ETs might have to shoot it out with the authoritarian ETs, like the reptilians. And the reptilians would not give a damn if they had to destroy the planet. And the humans, they don't understand all this crap. They don't understand how difficult it is. They don't understand the complexities. They don't understand squat. The reptilians would just scoop up all the population into the death traps and relocate to some other planet. So the good free will ETs have no alternative but to try to trigger a mass outcry for help so that they can be invited in by the masses. But even then, there's no guarantee that the masses will all be nice about it. People are not going to be nice. It's like my lovers. How are they going to be nice? They stabbed me in the back. What's this? Oh, yeah. And then there's no guarantee that the masses will all be nice. So the free will ETs, they're going to have to make assumptions about what they think the masses would like if they had their wits about them. It's like a lover. You sort of say, well, what would that lover be like if they had their wits about them? It's really complicated. Then you help them sort of making assumptions about what you think they really want or would need. Anyway, and it all gets back to the number of times I've helped somebody only to be burned by that same person as soon as they get the chance. So helping somebody rarely produces friendship. So that's what the good free will ETs are facing. How do you help humans, but the humans not really like it because they don't understand the situation? The helping often produces envy and hatred. People all want to be self-supporting. They want to be independent. No one wants to depend on the help of others. So the first thing you're going to do is hurt the person or be angry at the person that helped you in the first place because you want to be independent. You're resenting the fact that they had to help you in order to get out of a bad spot. So what do the good free will ETs get from helping us? What do they actually get from helping us?
These are changing times, and we expect much to happen in 2024. We are giving you valuable information via multiple different lenses each month. Check it all out. Now, let me mention what will happen with our next major mysteries project, the enigma of Elon Musk. You heard me right. Never has one person been so influential across a number of diverse enterprises than Elon Musk. Is it just luck? Is there something different about Mr. Musk that we might be interested in? Well, you will see what we found out about Elon Musk on the 15th of February with our next major mysteries project to be released on farsightprime.com. If you like mysteries, you will want to see this. Shifting gears, let's reflect for a moment. All too often, the news can be easily equated to negative programming. Our Human News show adds the element of remote viewing, but still this target for this particular experiment is rooted in the conventional notions of what is newsworthy across the human experience on this planet. The news, however, can be seen as a more valuable data set than just negative programming. The news, rather, is a set of creations brought forth from beings just like yourself, working and manifesting, all too often unaware of just how powerful their own directed thought and actions can be when it comes to creating the reality that they are living. Pockets of existence into which we gain a momentary glimpse through the news. Without this form of reference, it is scarily easy to fall into the feedback loop where you are creating a reality where upon looking at your created world, you in turn allow those creations to direct your own creative power to create based on the data that you have observed. Much like Jean Baudrillard described in his 1981 philosophical treatise, Simulacra and Simulation, the elements of reality that you perceive through the news can create an internal structure on which you base your reality to create your own subjective experience in life. This feedback loop creates a Venn diagram of sorts where two machines of manifestation, your mind and the news, begin to create each other. It is important to note that to remove yourself from this tidal lock with the news is to begin to see it as data. Manifestations of creator beings just like yourself. Manifestations that exhibit the entire spectrum of creativity from directed thoughts, emotions, and action to produce events and phenomena observable in physical time-space through the remote viewing procedure. When you see the news and you understand that the news is just a collection of creations brought into being by Isbys experiencing human lives just like yourself, you know that you can create anything on which you set your attention. By being aware of others' creations, you become all the wiser in understanding what you want and do not want to manifest. All too often, the news is full of negative manifestations, and when you see the news, either on the mainstream or through Farsight's Human News program, you often will come across stories where you feel that humanity seems to fall on its face. But it is in this marked awareness of our struggles as a species that we must be aware that we can manifest the opposite. To love where we see hate, to build where others destroy, to value the power that we hold within ourselves as individuals, to live in valiant defiance of a narrative that seems destined to paint only the colors of our collective misery while ignoring our vast wealth of hope and endless capacity for kindness. And our never-ending will to strive for greatness. Know that whenever a human sets out to accomplish their dreams, no matter what they may be, they become a success right then and there. We are honored when you watch us because you are watching a small handful of humans accomplish their dreams through this narrow lens of remote viewing experimentation. When you watch these human news events unfold throughout the next month, I urge you to take into consideration the fact that we are simply watching people no greater or worse than anyone else manifest and create events that they have destined themselves to live. Know that, for better or worse, each and every one of us are constantly creating our own story, our own human news. And a far larger audience than anything that YouTube can support is tuned into that tale that is your life. And now, for this month's Human News Reports, let's touch base on how we did last month. Intisam reported on a plane crash with nearby mountains. There actually was a major plane crash in Nepal that matches her report. 68 people were killed when a Yeti Airlines plane crashed into Pokhara in Nepal, the Himalayan nation. That was one of the worst crashes in Nepal in many years, and it was a big news story. Both Yeme Janae and Shante reported on explosions in a densely populated urban area. Smoke was coming from the buildings. Unfortunately, those sessions reflected events in the Ukraine war as attacks on civilian infrastructure has escalated. In my own session, I reported on protests and conflicts with police in an urban area. Well, one of the major stories in January was the protests that erupted following the release of the video footage of the brutal killing of Tyree Nichols by the police in Memphis, Tennessee, in the United States. Again, we are using our Human News remote viewing sessions to forecast the major news events of the month. Whatever you're feeling about the mainstream news, those were some of the major news events reported by the mainstream news in January 2023. Moving on, for those of you who want personalized instruction in remote viewing, Yeme Janae and Intisam are teaching remote viewing both individually and in groups. Our methods are sufficiently complex that we use pre-printed templates for our sessions. Yeme and Intisam can work with you individually or in groups as you learn to use these methods. Our approaches address a wide range of applications that we do here at Farsight, including investment, evaluations, and forecasting. We do lots of stuff that nobody else does, and it's a big subject, but for those of you who are interested, Yeme and Intisam will show you how we do what we do. Be patient in learning any of our methods. Nothing that we do was learned in a day. Yeme Janae has also finalized the structure of her telepathy course using the new Farsight telepathy templates that we use here at Farsight. She is now signing up students who are interested in learning how to use Farsight's telepathy procedures for February and March. Also, understand that when Yeme and Intisam teach remote viewing, no one at Farsight gets any financial benefit from this. Yeme and Intisam do this entirely on their own. Remember also that there is a large collection of instructional videos on farsightprime.com. So, how do you hear about all of our activities that we do here at Farsight so that you can participate and get the latest when they happen, including our live streams? Well, to start with, we use our email list and YouTube to make our major event announcements. So, there are two things that you need to do. First, you need to subscribe to our YouTube channel and remember to click the notifications bell that appears after you subscribe. That is the only way that YouTube will notify you about our new events, especially our live stream events. Just subscribing doesn't actually do anything. The notification bell is the important part, but that only notifies you of things that we release here on YouTube. To be notified about the things that we release on farsightprime.com, which you can watch using our Apple and Android apps on the web and on your home TV, you need to subscribe to our free email newsletter found on our website at farsight.org. Now, you can also allow our apps to notify you of our new releases on farsightprime.com. Be sure to do all three things. First, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Farsight. Remember to click the notifications bell, and then subscribe to our free email newsletter that you can find on our website, farsight.org. And finally, go to the settings of our app and allow it to give you notifications of our new releases on farsightprime.com. The links for YouTube and our newsletter are in the description area below this video, and the app is, well, it's on your phone. Those are how we announce what we do. We never send out spam, and we never give our subscriber list to anyone for any purpose. Now let's move on to this month's Human News forecast for February 2023. Remember, we could always be wrong, and all remote viewing must be seen as an experiment, not a certainty. But look at the data for yourself, make your own decisions, and then let's watch the month roll out to see what actually happens. These remote viewing reports are amazing to watch. It is best if you just watch them yourself without me trying to explain them in advance. So, let's begin our forecast for February 2023. I will return after all the reports are presented to help pull everything together.
For my first visual, I'm getting an environment that's pretty urban environment. There are some structures that are very, very close together. So see, so I have this structure right here. This kind of looks like a street. And there's other structures, like I said, in very close proximity. What this resembles is kind of like a compound. Kind of like it's part of one area. There's foliage around, and all in all, this place seems very, very, like in terms of the foliage, in terms of the landscape, it looks like it's very, very manicured. So I was kind of deducting like around a hotel or something like that. All right, so this is what the outside looks like. The color here is very like beige brown. The foliage also looks kind of like it's the foliage that's adapted to more drier type areas. So I was deducting like the region is like a high desert type region, like the Midwest or California or something like that. There's just something about it. Temperatures here are pretty cool, and I can sense subjects both inside and outside. Although the subjects inside, what I'm getting is more of like a focused gathering. So let me move to that. So the subjects, okay, so I'm getting that the subjects are in this room. And then I have all these subjects. This seems to be like what do I call it? A stage, and there's a few subjects here. And there's something sort of like when I probe for energetics, I don't know if it's the energetics that's coming from the actual subjects, but there's something that's loud, like I'm hearing pulsating, vibrating, talking, shouting, all. There's sort of like, there's something about like a rhythm that's going on here. So following that, I think these are kind of like kind of speakers or something, because it's very, very loud. This is what the inside looks like, except with a lot more subjects than I've like indicated. All right, so this is the basics of what my consciousness is focusing on. It's focusing on this kind of natural but also man-made environment with these kind of beigeish colors outside, and then we have this focused gathering that's happening inside this structure, I'm assuming, and there's these subjects that are addressing the other subjects. So when I move to the target activity of this session, the target activity is coming from these subjects. There's a lot of like, there's high energy. These subjects feel like when I probe for movement and activity, there's a lot of movement and activity coming here, even though it feels like they're all in close proximity. There's rowdy energy that's coming from the subjects, kind of erratic also. So I'm deducting like, are these subjects possessed? I know what is possessed even mean, but I don't know. Or I'm also deducting like a political rally or also a concert. Yeah. And that's the things I'm taking into account with these deductions is both the vibrations, the pulsating kind of rhythm that's coming from inside this room, and the energy that's coming from these subjects. That's causing me to come to these conclusions, right? I'm also getting a sense like that there's a piling on top of each other, because when I'm like looking at these subjects, it's hard to know what exactly is going on, because it feels like they're piled on top of each other, on top of all the chaotic energy that's happening here. So now let me move to the target event and maybe get a little bit more clarity on what exactly is happening in this environment, in this target. Okay, so now what's the target event? So again, I'm still getting this chaotic, but now I think I'm honing in on like a little bit of a panic energy, panicked activity within the subjects. Like all their energies are so heightened right now. And their movements look erratic and disturbed. Their movements kind of remind me of people who are in a fight or flight type situation. It's just like there's so much, and I don't know if that can happen within a concert. Maybe it's a concert and something goes wrong, or a political rally and they're all like disturbed and I don't know. So I'm going to do a collective deep mind probe to see what is going on collectively with all these subjects. What is going on with them? Okay, so I have to say, when there's such heightened energy, sometimes when we're doing these probes, it can be hard to differentiate when something is like if it's excitement or if it's panic. It's just a heightened sense of energy that's just pouring out within these subjects. But it feels frantic. Whatever it is, it feels like maybe both excitement and panic, because you can have both. If something negative happens, you can have like subjects who are, it causes excitement, but also panic. But that's kind of, yeah, that's what I'm getting, is heightened energy, erratic movements that's happening in a structure, that's in a type of environment like that I described. Okay, that's all I have for this target.
I've got a lot of man-made land, movement, base surface, subjects and structures on land, movement by subjects, raised land, some flat land, foliage. I've got tall structures, like high city buildings. I'm hearing loud voices, like this chanting, people are saying similar or the same thing, shouting. There's a very focused gathering here. What are they saying? Multiple subjects, crowd, very crowded. Ooh, got the distance, mountain, structures, like this whole big city, like a city where like the city is visible from a slight distance. Some open bare land, your structures, clusters of structures here, like rural or like residential area, little things here in different places. And then I see like this, like a road, almost deduction of road, but like a man-made land that is driven on or whatnot, or where moving structures can move on this, and it's full of subjects. On opposite sides, subjects, and then some subjects dispersing through here and there. So like across road, and there are subjects here, and there are some here, and some kind of scattered about amidst here. But the base of it is here. They're moving in tandem in more than one direction. I'm deducting a protest. I am deducting riot. It's not rowdy at the moment while I'm visualizing this, but which is why I said protest. Again, at this moment, there is no nothing aggressive going on here. There's like, they're opposing sides. I don't know if they're opposing like raw opposing, or if they're just people that stand for different things at the moment. They're all standing in movement or gathered for different causes. Some are rowdy. This does feel political, very political. There is one seemingly important person that I have zoned in on at the moment, and then a structure here. It's like a lot of energy flowing here. Not energetics, but energy. I am picking up on some energetics. There's like a marching through the streets type of thing. And then something triggered a reaction. Large city, vehicles on the ground, moving structures, I will call them. And like I said, these subjects, massive subjects here, marching through the streets. Movement by subjects on the surface, pacing forward. This is peaceful at the moment, but again, it has the potential to really get out of hand. I'm feeling cement, tar, natural gravel or grayish land, cool, moderate temperature, some foliage, a lot of life forms here, both human and some ET. The ET are not too prevalent at the moment. They're not in the forefront of things at the very least. Although I do see, y'all are everywhere, bro. Okay, so vehicles like trucks, authority vehicles, like police cars maybe, or ambulances, something with lights that make noise. Massive structures on both sides of the land here. Bada boom, bada bang, you know, things are happening here. Can the earth just chill out? Come on, guys.
Hi, everyone. For this session, the environment I'm seeing is one with a lot of more wide than they are tall horizontal structures. So it seems like a compound or a low elevation urban area. Low elevation meaning the structures are lower in elevation. They're not really very tall. But I'm getting this sensation of this regular topography environment, multiple structures. They seem to be more wide, not very tall. I'm seeing few subjects outside, but there are some subjects outside. However, this does seem to be the environment from which we are beginning our session in. All right, so I'm also noticing when looking at one of the subjects, it seems like the subjects have this very, very bulky attire on. So it seems like they are quite heavily dressed. Some squinted eyes over here. Yeah, so this is the type of attire I'm seeing with one of the subjects. Bulky attire, very baggy. Seems like it's I guess I would guess a cold weather type of attire, but it's just a headgear that seems like it connects with the outer torso attire, as well as when I look further into the background, I'm starting to notice a little bit of irregularity, not in this immediate area, but some hilly topography in the background. So that does basically surmise all the environmental details and what we're seeing here at the target. All right, so looking closer at one of the structures, I'm seeing that that's where most of the subjects in this target are. They seem to be indoors. I'm seeing a interior of a structure that seems to have multiple levels. There are subjects on this upper level of the structure, and they do not seem like they have this heavy attire on like that previous subject that had the sort of hooded headgear and very bulky attire on the outside of these structures. Inside a structure, it just seems like there's a bit more light, and it seems like there are multiple subjects in a room that has some objects sort of around it. Moving outside, it just seems like there are very few subjects, maybe just one or two that I'm picking up, while the inside seems to have collections of subjects. All right, so taking a closer look here at the environment that we're seeing outside, I'm getting a bit more of these sort of angular, sort of almost colonial style roofs to some of these structures. They seem like they're all relatively small in height relative to their width, and it seems like some of the structures seem to have a lot of light emanating from the outer areas. I mean, from the, I guess you would call them windows, but these boxy areas with light showing outside of them. And it's sort of this yellowish glow that seems to be shining outside here. While I'm getting a lot more dull hues, grayish dull hues, when I look at the general topography outside. So this sort of seems like another look at just the general layout of this environment. This dull grayish hues surrounding these sort of cold temperatures. I'm getting a lot of wind dynamics as well. If I could just change the color here. I'm getting a lot of wind dynamics, heavy wind dynamics that are blowing through this environment. And yeah, that seems to be the activity that I'm picking up here at the target. All right, so zooming out as much as I can for the moment, I'm picking up a lot more structural urban topography. It just seems like there are very tall structures further out into the distance, and the vast majority of this urbanized space, though, does seem to be these lower level structures that are sort of sprawling out from this tall structured core. And I'm also just getting that high volatility cold wind dynamics that are blowing through this environment, and really just a lot of gray, whitish hues that are coating the actual base surface around here. So a lot of dull hues, not a lot of vibrant colors. The most vibrant color really is just coming from the, I guess, the windows of structures, and these orangey yellow glows sort of just coming out of there. But other than that, seems like lots of grayish white hues covering this entire environment, and heavy wind dynamics and cold temperatures. All right, moving more towards the center of this target activity, I'm sensing more of these structures, and now I'm sensing also some vehicles. So there are vehicles that seem to be locked in place that are also here at the target. And I'm getting the sensation that there's a lot of, I guess I would just call it ice, but these coatings of really, really cold yet hard, shiny layers that are just sort of caked over this, a lot of the structures, as well as especially these vehicles that are stationary. Once again, that cold wind dynamics that are just blowing through this entire environment, that's still present. All right, so moving to the target event, it definitely seems like I'm just getting more of the same when probing for the target event. It just seems like more of these structures with these sort of triangular roofs, and vehicles, stationary vehicles, all sort of being barraged by this very cold wind dynamics. Excuse my lack of straight lines here for some of these structures. But yeah, just very cold temperatures, very stationary vehicles, no subjects. I'm really not seeing a lot of subjects at all. But when probing for the target event specifically, I'm just seeing a lot more activity in this cold wind dynamics. So it seems like the wind dynamics, this cold, icy wind dynamics blowing through an urban area, that just seems to be the center of attention for everything that's going on here at this target. It just seems like I'm not picking any subjects up outside, and I'm just seeing this flurry of cold wind dynamics blowing through an urban area. And that does conclude all the data that I do have for this session.
So starting off, I have a base surface here with level topography. I have a couple of surface structures here as well. You know, they don't really look like anything in particular. It just feels like a couple of structures here. It does not feel like a city. It does feel like there's some subjects on the base surface. Here. Very few subjects. And they all feel mostly male as well. These subjects all seem to be wearing like these dark clothes, like different shades of kind of like blacks and grays. The land here is very flat. It does have mostly natural land with some man-made components. And then I see like blacks, grays, a couple of like greens, and like a little blue, but mostly just these dark colors here. Another thing that I'm seeing is a lot of like smoke and energetics. So it feels like the smoke starts like from the ground and kind of carries around the whole area. It does look like everything's pretty hazy as well. So like there's just this, again, smoke just covering the whole area. You can see through it, so it's pretty hazy, but yeah. There are subjects here, like I said. Some of these subjects don't feel conscious though, like they feel unconscious or even dead. But these subjects don't really feel like the whole lot's going on right now. Okay, so for my next visual, I once again have this level topography here. I have a couple of structures on the surface. They seem like pretty close together, kind of like that. Okay, and then I see this thing that looks kind of like a ring around the structure. So it was kind of like that. So like, it's kind of like if a ring started in the middle and then kind of came out past the structures, and there's a lot of energetics in this as well. So just think smoke ring around structures. And there are, again, like I said, subjects here on this base surface. So there's subjects maybe like here and here, but they just don't feel like they're doing a whole lot right now. And that's about it. You know, again, I see the energetics too kind of over here. And then kind of off to the side a little bit more, you can see some other sort of like energetics kind of here as well, almost as if maybe something had like exploded here and then something else was kind of smoky or on fire over here. And then, so now I'm hearing these like noticeable booms. So it feels very much so like boom, 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 very slow, very heavy, and just like these massive explosion sounds. I'm seeing like reds and oranges, like a hue of pink, and then just blackness, darkness. That haze is still there. You can kind of see like debris kind of floating around in front of my face, and just a lot of man-made noise, I guess, going on. It's almost like so loud that it feels like everything's kind of standing still. So I'm feeling that there's a lot of chaotic energy here, like there's a lot of chaos. It feels like things are just exploding, subjects are running around. It just feels like a lot is happening, and it doesn't really have a rhyme or reason or a way. It just feels like it's kind of just everywhere all at once. For my next visual, I see just only energetics. It almost looks like something that's shooting up from here. I see a lot of energetics down here, and this is the base surface, okay? So it's like energetics, something here that's coming outwards, like it feels like energy is coming out, like this, like out. So kind of go like this in a sense. This is the way the energy is flowing, right? But then it kind of just comes up into a cloud at the top. So, you know, it kind of feels like a tornado or like an explosion. Just a lot of energetics, a lot of movement and activity and energy centered like right here. I do again feel these like structures here, like I said, on the base surface, but they kind of feel like broken and stuff too. So that part might be missing and things kind of like that. And then there's subjects still on the base surface here. Excuse my subjects, but so the subjects on the base surface, some sort of big like tunnel looking explosion thing. I can just tell that there's a lot of energy that originates like on the base surface. There's no non-surface structures here. It doesn't feel like anything drops from the ground and explodes. So, you know, I'm thinking either like tornadoes, landmines, like something like that. The energy is on the land and is predominantly on the land. So that's kind of what I'm picking up here. The movement by the subjects feels like very slow. It doesn't really feel like they move a whole lot. It's kind of like this kind of springs up on them or happens out of nowhere, and they weren't ready for it, but it's almost like they were. Like they prepared, but you can't prepare for that. You know what I mean? There's cool temperatures here, but it's like something's giving off like a little bit of heat, but it feels pretty cool for the most part. And it doesn't really feel like there's any foliage on the surface. Like it just feels very flat, dead area, man-made, some natural things, you know what I mean? Just a healthy mix, but nothing, like no trees or nothing like that. Lastly, I just really don't sense that there's a whole lot of life here. Like after this, like there's subjects here, don't get me wrong, but they're not here all the way. They definitely feel like empty vessels at this point, I guess. Mostly I feel like this is dry land here. I'm not really sensing a whole lot of water. I'm just sensing a lot of energetic smoke and dry land. Okay, so for my last visual, I'm seeing this level topography again. I'm seeing something like big and swirling. Like it just looks like big swirly energy here, like that, just big. It's kind of centered, but it's real hazy at the same time. Like it just feels like there's a lot of debris and smoke and dirt in the air. So like that's really all I'm seeing. You know, imagine this is just the smoke that you can't see through. Okay. And then there's like some debris in there, and then a couple of subjects over here. And it's interesting because these subjects feel like there's just not a lot of them, but it feels like they're here for a reason. Like, you know, it doesn't feel like they're just living here, mostly because it's like mostly male subjects and they all seem to be wearing some sort of like uniform or dressing the same. So now that I'm going to move to the target event, at this target event I am seeing a lot of, again, energetic smoke haze. I hear roaring, booming. I hear some subjects talking, but for the most part it's almost like dead silence, and then a lot of activity, a lot of movement by objects and not necessarily by the subjects. After this whole like explosion type thing is happening, like I said, these subjects are not responding. They don't feel like they are alive. I feel like there's somebody shallow breathing, but for the most part, it's like nobody's moving and nobody's going anywhere. It feels very destructive. It feels like this whole area gets basically like I said, obliterated. Just these structures too, because the rest of it, you know, it's smoky, it's hazy, but it's not necessarily being destroyed. It's like just these buildings where these subjects are have exploded or have something happening to them where they're being torn apart. And like I said, it does originate on the base surface, so whether or not there's something here that kind of explodes, some sort of like, you know, landmine or something that like explodes, and you get the idea. Something on the base surface, and it takes it all with it. It takes the subjects, it takes the buildings. It's not good. And a big thing that I want to touch back on is that it just definitely feels like nobody was expecting this. It may feel like they prepared for it, but they were not expecting it. It wasn't like they accepted their fate and they knew it was about to go this way. Like, no, completely caught off guard. And yeah, so moving to the cause of this event, I'm picking up that these subjects, like, they're here for a reason. But there's something or somebody else that also knows that they're here for a reason. So there's like, you know, these guys, subjects A, and then there's another group, subjects B. So focusing on subjects A feel like they're here to infiltrate or sneak up and attack somebody. It feels like maybe, you know, they're not where they're supposed to be, like a very small group of people are somewhere that they're not supposed to be. And it definitely feels like they're just trying to infiltrate something, get some information, you know, sneak around a little bit. Now, subjects B feel like they knew subjects A was coming and they were going to be there. So subjects B also, you know, seem to be preparing something. It's almost like the idea of like we're sneaking in and they're preparing for a break-in. And when they've gotten here, these subjects kind of put their plan into action. Subjects B, it really feels more of like a self-defense thing, like they're trying to keep themselves, you know, safe and keep these subjects away from them. So it's kind of, you know, almost like if you're defending yourself, but then like you're going to explode, you know, blow up this whole area. Or you're looking for information, but then at the same time, like you're trespassing. So that's kind of what's happening here. They seem to be not in their zone. They seem to be defending something, and that's how this all transpires. These subjects are, like I said, basically done for, and these subjects feel like, you know, they feel pretty excited and hopeful and almost like they've accomplished something. So, yeah, basically, you know, subjects A seem to be coming for something that subjects B have. These subjects already know about it, and basically they set up a plot to defend something else. So, yeah, that's what's happening here. These subjects on the base surface get met with some sort of explosion, some activity. They are shallow breathing. They're not really finna make it. And these subjects B, you know, because these subjects over here are still subjects A, but there's another group of subjects, and subjects B plan this whole event. And they're pretty proud of themselves. So, yeah. I guess the last thing I want to say and reiterate is that subjects B are not at this target event. The only subjects here are these subjects from Group A. Subjects B, the Group B, they know of this going on, and they seem to be in charge of the target event. And that is all I have for this target.
For my first visual, I have a base surface with level topography. I have mostly man-made land here. There's like moderate foliage, but it seems like mostly man-made area, not a lot of like natural elements here. And there's like some surface structures. I'm feeling cold temperatures here, picking up like ice and snow, and it's just a very flat, like the land here is very flat and like hard texture. So taking a look at some of these structures, I'm seeing a lot of kind of like cylindrical designs and shapes with these structures. Like, these are very solid, like hard structures, but there's something, maybe like they're maybe kind of old or like outdated, but these are structures that still get a lot of use. There's, oh, that doesn't work. That still get a lot of use, and there's like multiple subjects inside these structures, outside the structure, and I'm also picking up like some man-made smoke coming from these structures here. Okay. So next I'm picking up another structure that seems to have a similar kind of circular-ish shape. It was, yeah, a very large structure, and there's kind of like these platforms outside of the structure, or like stairs, and there's a lot of subjects heading like into this structure, a lot of subjects inside. Oh, sorry. Inside the structure. So a lot of, it feels like a crowd. There's a lot of movement. It's very loud, a very loud environment. And I'm seeing these kind of like man-made like objects, kind of that kind of shape, just kind of like nearby. And kind of like there's some glowing light coming from the outside of this structure as well. So the subjects I'm picking up here, there's kind of like a good variety, but for the most part I'm seeing like light complexions, and it seems the subjects here are like around the ages of like 30 and older. I'm seeing mostly adult subjects here, but a good mix of males and females. And just like different kind of groups of subjects, so like a focus gathering at this specific structure. And if I were like to zoom out from here and just look at this area in general, like there's some areas with some like average looking structures, and then I'm seeing some areas where like there's just a lot of like man-made materials and like piles, or just a mass of man-made objects and materials with very hard texture. And there's like some cloud dynamics around those areas. So like there's subjects here in like the normal structures, and then I have, these feel like structures, just not like the materials of structures, like hard materials, just not structures put together, like maybe structures that like remains of a structure, or like debris. And it's kind of in this similar area. Like, so next I'm like seeing more man-made land, but movement, multi-directional movement on a base surface, and I'm seeing very large vehicles. Like deduction, they're like trucks, but more so like these are large enough to carry other vehicles, like, if that makes sense. Not necessarily trucks, like trucks carrying trucks, but trucks carrying some other large, fairly large vehicles. And then those are all seem to be going like in one direction, and it seems more away from like the urban environment. So I have these large vehicles moving away from this urban environment, and then I have smaller vehicles. Oh, not supposed to be smaller, but yeah, smaller vehicles with like multiple subjects inside
heading towards the urban environment. So multi-directional movement, mostly small vehicles going towards urban environment and larger vehicles going away. So I'm gonna head back to like the center of this like urban environment, and this like particular structure, kind of like cylindrical structure, a rounded structure, seems to be attracting like a lot of subjects from different areas. It seems like even some of these subjects are maybe like traveling here from farther areas outside of this urban area. There is like some foliage here, but I'm just seeing mostly kind of like grayish and whitish hues. And yeah, so I have a lot of subjects coming towards this structure, and the general like vibe that I'm picking up in this urban environment is like pretty positive or like excited. Like if I had to make like a deduction, I would say maybe like there's some sort of celebration that's happening in this structure. I'm hearing like loud sounds, and the people here just in generally like they seem to be looking forward to coming to this area. I have subjects, like some of the activity here is subjects walking outside, as well as like movement in these vehicles towards this structure. And then as I slowly kind of zooming out, then I'm seeing these kind of like different structures, like kind of more of a blocky kind of shape. Like there's a lot of like rounded structures, but these seem to be more like square shaped. And like looking inside, I'm not seeing anything really inside these structures. Like they could be empty or just like not complete or hollow kind of. And the terrain around these structures seems very rough, like uneven compared to here. It's very flat and smooth, but here the terrain is just really like lumpy. Now I have a few subjects kind of like outside here, as well as these like larger vehicles I'm seeing here as well. Okay. Oh, it's supposed to be a subject inside the vehicle, but yeah, so the large vehicles are here. There's kind of a lot, like a lot of loud sounds and like smoke, atmospherics, or like rumbling sounds, and like vibrational energetics here. It seems like a kind of unpleasant environment to be in this like specific moment. And there's something about it that also maybe doesn't feel very safe. Yeah. So it feels like it could be maybe like a kind of like kind of it feels like there's a destructive energy or activity that's happening here regarding these like large vehicles to the structure that are of this kind of style or in this condition. Yeah, so deduction, I'll say it's like destruction of these specific type of structures here that's away from this urban environment. And I'm picking up a subject, a female subject, and she definitely has like an old appearance, kind of light. Her hair has like light hues, kind of thin. She doesn't seem to be the most friendly of subjects. But what I'm sensing for this subject is like kind of nice outfit, but Like the subject seems like she takes care of herself. She just isn't very kind. And I'd say she's kind of old, like over the age of 50, this subject. But this is a subject that in this area seems to have like a lot of influence, but is also maybe not super, maybe the subject is not well known or like very likes to keep things very private, but she has a lot of influence over this area, maybe like some type of leader, but maybe not a leader, but someone very powerful in this area. An older female subject, and I will say she feels like maybe not happy, but like satisfied with this event. And what it's kind of feeling like, she's not too concerned with what's happening like in this urban environment, but more what's happening kind of more outside of the city here. And it kind of feels like the subjects here are maybe like distracted due to the event or celebration that's happening. Yeah, so I would say the target like event that I have here is like this kind of structure. And it's possible this was at once like a very important structure to like maybe like a specific group, but is now maybe it's kind of like forgotten about or not really maintained. And I have subjects nearby that seem to be just kind of watching as this is happening. These subjects are also not concerned with this like big event here, but it is like very rough land and debris here, and I'm sensing heat energetics coming, like rising from the base surface and also from the structure, as there's these like large vehicles that I'm gonna like deduct that they're like construction vehicles and they're just kind of destroying what's the word, like demolishing